Los Angeles, 1969. The decade that promised peace, love, and freedom was collapsing under its own weight. The optimism of the summer of love was giving way to fear, drugs, and paranoia. And in the Hollywood Hills, a quiet home at the end of a winding road was about to become one of the most infamous crime scenes in American history. 2 nights of violence, 7 victims, and one man who never held the knife but convinced others to do it for him. This is the story of the Tate LaBianca murders. Now let's tear into it. Charles Manson grew up unwanted and unstable. He bounced between relatives, reform schools, and prisons. By adulthood, manipulation was his strongest skill. In the late 1960s, he reinvented himself as a spiritual leader. He preached love, ego death, and enlightenment. But beneath the words was control. He gathered lost young people around him, runaways, drug users, and seekers. They became the family. They lived at Spahn Ranch, an abandoned movie set outside Los Angeles. There, Manson told them society was corrupt and doomed, that an apocalyptic race war, which he called Helter Skelter, was coming. He believed songs by the Beatles contained hidden messages meant only for him. In his mind, he was chosen to guide the family through chaos. But Manson wanted more than followers. He wanted fame. He dreamed of becoming a rock star. That dream brought him into contact with music producer Terry Melcher, a man who once lived at a house on Cielo Drive. Melcher rejected him, and that rejection became part of Manson's growing rage toward Hollywood. By the summer of 1969, the house at 150 Cielo Drive belonged to actress Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski. Sharon was 8.5 months pregnant. Polanski was overseas working on a film. That night, Sharon had friends staying with her: Jay Sebring, a celebrity hairstylist; Abigail Folger, heir to the Folgers' coffee fortune; and Wojciech Frykowski, an aspiring screenwriter. Also on the property was 18-year-old Stephen Parent, visiting the caretaker in the guest house. They were unaware they had been marked. On August 8th, Manson gave an order to 4 of his followers: Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian. He told them to go to the old Melcher house and kill everyone inside and make it look witchy. Just after midnight, the group arrived at Cielo Drive. Stephen Parent was leaving the property when Watson confronted him at the gate and shot him. Inside the house, the attackers stormed in. Jay Sebring was shot and stabbed. Frykowski fought back, desperately, but was beaten, stabbed dozens of times, and shot. Abigail Folger escaped into the yard, running barefoot through the darkness, but she was caught and stabbed repeatedly. Sharon Tate was cornered inside the house. She begged them to let her live long enough to give birth. She offered herself as a hostage. It didn't matter. She was stabbed 16 times. Afterwards, Susan Atkins used Sharon Tate's blood to write the word "pig" on the front door. The killers fled into the night. By morning, 5 people were dead, including an unborn child. Los Angeles woke up in terror. The victims were famous. The violence was ritualistic, and nothing made sense. The next night, Manson decided the message wasn't strong enough. This time, he went with them. They drove to a home in the Los Feliz neighborhood belonging to Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, a successful grocery executive and his wife. Manson entered first. He tied them up himself. Then he left. Tex Watson returned with Patricia Krenwinkel and Leslie Van Houten. Leno LaBianca was stabbed repeatedly. The word "war" was carved into his stomach. Rosemary fought back, but was stabbed more than 40 times. Using their blood, messages were written on the walls: "Rise, death to pigs." The killers showered, changed clothes, and disappeared into the city. 2 nights, 7 victims, no clear motive. At first, police didn't connect the 2 crime scenes. The victims were different. The neighborhoods were miles apart. But the key break came from inside the family. Susan Atkins began bragging about the murders to fellow inmates after being jailed on an unrelated charge. Her words reached police. Soon, investigators uncovered the cult behind the killings. Charles Manson and several family members were arrested. The question wasn't whether the killers were guilty. It was whether Manson could be blamed for murders he never physically committed. The trial became a media circus. The defendants carved X's into their foreheads. They sang in court. They stared down witnesses. Manson tried to intimidate jurors and disrupt proceedings. But prosecutors argued he was the mastermind, the one who ordered and shaped the violence. The jury agreed. Manson, Atkins, Watson, Krenwinkel, and Van Houten were all convicted of murder. They were sentenced to death. But in 1972, California abolished the death penalty. Their sentences were changed to life in prison. Susan Atkins died in prison in 2009. Charles Manson died in prison in 2017 at age 83. Patricia Krenwinkel remains incarcerated. Tex Watson remains incarcerated. Leslie Van Houten was released on parole in 2023. The family disintegrated, but the fear they created did not. The Tate LaBianca murders shattered the image of the 1960s. The idea that hippies meant peace was gone overnight. Writer Joan Didion later wrote that many believed the 60s ended the moment news spread from Cielo Drive. Hollywood turned darker. Movies became more violent, more cynical. Even science fiction was affected. George Lucas changed character names in Star Wars so they wouldn't resemble the phrase celebrity killer. The murders didn't just take lives, they took innocence. Charles Manson never became a rock star. Instead, he became something far more dangerous, a symbol of how belief can be turned into bloodshed. The Tate LaBianca murders weren't just crimes, they were a warning that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a man with a guitar, telling lost souls that only he knows the truth. And sometimes they listen. Thanks for watching.